Welcome back to the Shamic Podcast. I'm so excited because today I have the very lovely Lara Beitz on.
Wait, you're not wearing your headphones.
I'm not.
I wear my headphones?
I don't like wearing my headphones. There's something like bulky about them, and I think they're very ugly. But if you feel like that's like who you are in life and you want to wear them, oh, you already wear them. Okay, wow.
I'm wearing them now, but now I don't want to wear them.
You look cute in them, so that's something.
Nope. Coming off.
Be your own person.
If they're optional, I'm choosing. Oh, I almost just like put the microphone away, which that's
like, we
not
don't
a
need
choice.
any of this. Yeah. And so, how many years has it been now since you've been in LA?
I'm like, what year is it? It's been 5. It's been 5. Yeah, I moved here in 2016 in August, and it's almost August now.
Perfect. Yeah. So exactly about like 5 years.
Yeah.
And like, are you like when you sit like by yourself? Are you like, damn, like I'm so proud of myself? Like, do you like? Yeah.
Yeah.
You do? Hell yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Good. Because I feel like so many people like that's like the first thing I always ask comics. I'll be like, how are you feeling? Like, do you check in with yourself? And are you like, dude, because like you're someone who like I'm watching and I'm like, hopefully she knows she's killing it. You know what I mean?
Thank
Like,
you.
because I feel like some people like don't. They just constantly are like looking at like all the things that they have to do, or they're comparing themselves to like people who are older or like more established, and they're never like taking in like what they have right now. But like, yeah, girl, you're like on fire.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels really good. I tried to I've done a lot of like, and only since I moved to LA, and it sounds so hippy dippy, but like inner child stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely in the habit of talking to my inner child as my own loving parent.
Totally.
And so like if I achieve something, I definitely take time to like look myself in the mirror and be like, look what
Good
you
job.
did. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you.
Hell
you know?
yeah.
And I do
Good.
let it in. Because I think that the real challenge is like to enjoy it, because what is any of it worth if we don't enjoy it?
Yeah, I think it's like important too that you said like inner child, because a lot of people don't know what that is. And it's like your inner child is like something that like we all have to heal, because at some point growing up, like we all had some trauma or some neglect or like some sort of situation where you were sad or like abandoned or like on your own. And it's like as adults, it's the same thing where it's like no one's going to discipline you and no one's going to love you the way you know how to like do it. So that's like good that you already have that like habit going. But also, so like off that note, like what is your like spiritual like belief or like practice? Like were you someone who grew up with religion or not at all?
Yeah, I grew up in a religious Christian household, and it didn't work for me. And so I rejected that, and I thought that...
How old? Like what age were you at where you're like, I don't like this?
Like early high school.
Okay.
Yeah, like high school. And I mean, I feel like I knew for a while. I just was so afraid that I was going to go to hell.
Yeah.
So I would push those feelings of doubt away, because I figured the safer bet was to go through the motions so I wouldn't go to hell.
Right.
But ultimately I just didn't believe in it. And then I identified as an atheist or an agnostic for many years. And then I finally like got sober in a higher power based program of recovery. And so the first higher power I was willing to accept, which like I was reluctant. I stayed out of it for like 12 years because I was like, I don't believe in God. That's for people who are dumber than I am.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I could access
Right.
like a spiritual way of life.
Totally.
And the person who was like helping me at that time, the person I chose to help me with that work, told me that she was an atheist when she came into that program as well. And she just asked me to like trust her to walk me through it. And I did. And the first higher power that I accepted in that program was just the program itself.
Right.
And then I was also able to accept like the cosmos as a higher power, because obviously, I mean,
every mathematician and scientist, they like are involved with cosmos.
Right.
So it's like, I'm going to go with them.
Right.
I feel like they know what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I started praying to it every day, just like a prayer of thankfulness and surrender. And I still say that prayer every day, and I've added so many to it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so silly at first until I saw my life start to take shape. And my life started.
Yeah.
I mean, when my spiritual existence started, that's
Totally.
when my life as I know it
What
started.
year was that for you?
2014.
See, that's so funny. That's the same that happened for me. It was around 2000. It's like all the people who I know who are like, you know, on this path or like kind of like follow this lifestyle, like 2013, 2014 was like a huge shift for them. So I'm like, cosmos, like whatever, like was like planetary, like shifting. I'm like, people who, you know, have followed this path, like I see like how the trajectory of their life, I'm like, oh my, like everybody had some type of bottom and they're like, ooh, like I'm on the bottom to like where I'm like desperate, like crying to God, like, dude, like I'm gonna have to kill myself, like I don't know what else to do, like and then I just heard a little voice go, meditate. And I was like, meditate? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't have to, this isn't gonna help me. And then I just like kept saying meditate. And I was like, fine. And then I meditated and I had this like crazy dream where like an angel like spoke to me. And then I just followed what that like angel said. And then like literally from that point on, like just started getting myself out of like survivor mode. So I'm glad that you have you had some type of like program or some type of person to like guide you like through it, because like that's so important when you first start, because you're just kind of like, I don't know, like what do I meditate? Do I pray? Is somebody mad at me? Is there a God? Do I owe somebody money? Like, yeah, that's good that you had that for sure.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, was there like a defining moment, like when you said you rejected Christianity in high school? Was there something that was like, were you involved in something where you're like, it made you feel shameful or something, and that's when you start to reject it? Or is it like
I had a friend who was an atheist, and she was just a really gentle, loving, intelligent person. Yeah. And she and I just spent so many hours talking about God in like coffee shops and bookstores, you know, places that kids can go, you know, that high school kids can go. And it just was over the course of like those like hours. I mean, I can't imagine how much time we actually spent talking about God. And she just had such good points. So if I were to point to any specific thing, that person would be what I would point to. But ultimately, it just never really made sense to me logically. Yeah.
But that's good. I think that's like, it kind of like ignites like how you became a comic, because I think like good comics are people who are constantly like willing to like go against like their comfortable thoughts, or like willing to accept uncomfortable truths, because it's like you have to as a comic, you know what I mean? If you're just gonna just be boxed in with like all your opinions, it's like it's gonna show in the type of comedy you do, because you're only gonna like appeal to a small group of people, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's hard because like my family believes I'm going to hell.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. So they're like that Christian.
Yeah. Like my sister, I have, she has 4 kids, and
she older or younger?
Older. She's 5 years older. Yeah. Okay. And at one point I was like, do you care if they know that I'm not a Christian?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I don't. I just worry because I think they will think less of you. And so I've never told them. I mean, they've never asked, and I've never.
Wow. You have to be like, hey, just so you know, Aunt Lara is really fun, but she's not a Christian. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, you don't get any Christmas gifts from us this year.
I've never known how to tell them.
Yeah, that's why. So like, what do your parents think of you doing comedy then?
It's just my mom. My dad passed away, and I hadn't started comedy when he passed away.
Oh.
But my mom has a lot of different things to say on whatever day it is.
So do you think, were they married when your father passed?
No.
So they were already separated.
Yeah.
And did you live with mom or did you live with dad?
Oh God. Yeah, it was like, I lived with my mom after they got a divorce. Okay. I was like 13.
Gotcha. So they got divorced when you were like pretty much like older.
Yeah.
And it was like that very like awkward stage.
Yeah. Which I think also, I mean, I think that my dad is like part of, I didn't want I couldn't accept a religion. I don't want a God that's a father figure. I don't want a
Yeah.
God that's like a punishing father figure.
Disciplining you. You're like, dude.
I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Not
Thank you
for
so
me.
much.
Yeah.
I always got weirded out like when I was like, well, if God's this God, I'm like, why do we need to like worship him all the time? Like, why did like how big is this dude's ego?
Right.
Like,
Why is he so insecure?
yeah, like why do we all have to be in I'm like singing about you? I'm like, I don't sing well and you want me to do this? Like, why? And I just always like that kind of always like weirded me out. And then like I started, one of my girlfriends when I first moved here, she was Buddhist. And so I started going to these like Buddhist like meetings with her. And I always liked the concept of like, no, like you're your own God. Like you have like the capability of like reaching enlightenment. And I was like, okay, I was like, I'm into that. But then I still kind of was like, but I was like, well, God, like, you know, he kind of like whenever I was like needed something, I was like, well, God, you know, then I wanted him to be real. And then when I realized where I was like, no, like I completely am made up of the same speck of dust that happens during the Big Bang Theory. And that's just like evolved throughout time to where we'd have like human form. I'm like, I'm that same essence. So I can like kind of like manipulate energy and do whatever I want. And now I'm a fucking witch, Laura.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Yeah, that's basically it. But when you first like moved here, so like were you already were a part of like a sober like a AA like type of thing, right?
Yeah, but I can't
You
say
can't say
that.
that. Yeah. Okay. You were already part of a program, and then like do you like when you first came out here were you like, okay, like I'm not that spiritual compared to like people in LA? Like did you think like everybody was kind of like woo woo with their crystals and their like witch stuff and astrology? Or
So my feel on it is like in Chicago, the program that I am in and was in was way more what they called structured. And so at the time when I came out here, I was like, these people are like half-assing it. Like no one knows how to show up.
Yeah.
They clap after people share, which I'm like, get over yourselves.
Yeah.
What a fucking LA thing to do. It's not a performance that you just like talked about, like pissing the bed. Like let's maybe, because everywhere else in the country, you just say like, thanks, whatever. Thanks, Bob.
Do you think it's because LA is such a like entertainment hub that people like literally get like the lines between acting class and like a program like mixed, like where they're like, oh, like good job, like you're so vulnerable, like good job?
You know how I think it happened, and I never really thought about this, but I think probably someone just like crushed their share one day and everyone clapped, and then they clapped for the next person because it would be awkward not to. And then they just never stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, that sounds. I've always been like very interested. Like I have a lot of people.
Oh, wait, I want to finish that
yeah.
thought though, because I was kind of shitting on the LA program a little bit. And now I actually really prefer it. So that's all. I just wanted to make sure that got said before we got too far away from it. I didn't want that to be my closing thought on the matter.
Why do you prefer it now?
Because it's like, it feels gentler to me. It doesn't feel unnecessarily rigid. There's this mentality in the program in Chicago where it's like, we suit up and we show up no matter what.
Right.
And here people are more like, no, we've like been to therapy, and so we say no when we're unavailable sometimes.
Yeah.
And like, that's an important skill to have. No, I don't show up for everybody all the time. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
That's good. And what so when you started to like realize that you had like a problem, was it with drinking or was it with drugs, or was it both?
Yes.
Both.
Yeah.
Now
drinking took me to a worse place, but that's just because I was drinking. So like if you removed the alcohol and I was still doing drugs, I mean, God knows. I was like using drugs a lot.
Like how old, like what ages was this around?
From 17 to 29.
Oh, wow. Okay. So there was a while there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I thought you were saying earlier that you started to get into the program like high school age. I was like, damn.
Oh,
I was like, she's I went to Barrymore.
No. I went to my first meeting when I was 18.
Oh, so wow.
I started drinking pretty much daily when I was 17.
Oh my God.
I mean, I started drinking and I couldn't stop until I was 29.
Now is that hereditary, like in the family?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you were just like,
yeah.
Now, did your parents know you were like drinking that much? No. Okay.
No, they were unavailable. So my dad, like, I'm just laughing at the way I said that. I've never said that before, but it's like,
they were unavailable. Yeah.
No, they couldn't come to the phone right now. My dad was an alcoholic, and it was like really gnarly. It's like definitely a progressive illness. It gets worse. It never gets better without treatment.
Yeah.
And it got worse and worse and worse until finally, way too late, my mom divorced him.
Yeah.
Way too late. The idea of staying together for the kids is like the craziest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
It's so annoying. I'm like, why don't you guys just say you're lazy?
Break up for the kids. Yeah. Say you're scared.
We know you hate each other.
Yeah.
Like, we can feel it.
Oh my God, we can hear you. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. And not only that, but it's just like, just say you guys both don't want to pay your own rents. Like, don't be like, it's saving us. I'm like,
my mom had like
together.
bruises on her. It's like, you don't think that you don't think we can hear that? You don't think we can see that? Totally. You don't think that affects us?
My whole love life. Yeah.
And I mean, my dad was abusive of my sister and of me. So, I mean, it was awful. And then he moved out, and then he went to jail. And then when he moved out, he left behind a full liquor cabinet. And
like,
old Bitsy got into it. I drank it.
Yeah.
And I just filled the bottles back up with water. And then one day, years later, he was like, I finally went through and like cleaned the liquor cabinet out today. Because then my mom moved out of the house and he moved back in. I moved out into a condo with my mom. And I thought he was going to be like, yeah, it's all water. But he just was like, I dumped him down the drain finally. And I'm like, okay, right. Well, it's been 5 years, so it's about time, but whatever.
It's crazy because our stories are very parallel. Like, my dad, abusive, drunk, like drug addict. And my mom didn't start to develop a substance abuse problem until I got older. Like, literally, when I go home now, like, her and her boyfriend are like, you want to take a tab of acid and play with these sparklers?
Not with my mom.
Yeah, literally. I was like, I had never tried acid at that point. My mom's like, come on, pussy. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do acid with you. Like, she was literally roasting me because she's like, what do you do in California? She's like, you and your friends don't go to Grateful Dead. And she did this. She's like, you guys don't go to Grateful Dead tribute band concerts? And I'm like,
Mom, I would hallucinate with my friends 1,000 times before I would smoke a joint with you. Are you fucking kidding me?
With you and your boyfriend, with your matching tie-dye t-shirts. Like, this is embarrassing.
Sorry, I just shouted into the microphone.
Yeah. Like, literally so.
I feel like I'm having a bad trip. I'm not even there. I'm getting visuals. Yeah, and like, take me out of this.
My mom dances on bars still. Yes. I literally went home to 4th of July, and she was dancing on a bar to pour some sugar on me. And she's like, do you want a Jell-O shot? And
I was like, I want to die.
I want a new mom. Like, get up. Like, both my parents I call them, they're degenerates. But, and same thing. Like, I saw, like, my dad like hit my mom, and I have like a joke about it where I'm just like, the first time I ever saw makeup was to like watch my mother cover up a black eye. It was like true. And like, then someone bought me like makeup for my birthday once, and I was like, but I don't have any bruises.
Oh my God.
And they're like, sweetie, no. So I'm like, and those type of things, like, people don't realize how much that affects you when you're older. Yeah. Like, I'm sure you've had like your, battles with intimacy and love issues, because it's like the first person you're seeing, the first man, and he abuses your mom and abuses you. You're like, you're not going to trust him ever.
And then leaves and then dies.
Yeah. And then you're like, and then doesn't leave me any money.
He left me a little bit of money, but
now you're just showing off.
Drank it in like a year. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to live off of for the rest of my life. No. Thank God, though, or I would never achieve anything.
Totally. When did you start stand-up?
2010.
2010. Okay, so you don't tell me your age, but I know some people are like weird about that. But for me, I'm like, I'll be 35. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not.
You're 35?
I'll be 35 in a couple months.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But like,
I'll be 35 too. Fuck it, right?
Oh, nice.
No, I'm 36.
Okay, you're like. But so
I meant for today, I'll be 35.
Yeah, I was like, and we can edit this out. But like, people, I think it's important that like girls know that like in your 30s that like you're still young and fun. Like,
oh, thanks.
Because it's like there's so many times like when I thought about 30s when I was older, I used to get really depressed because I was like, oh, one day I was like, I'll just be an adult and I'll just like have a husband and like, you know, own a house. And I'm like, oh no, like I'm having the time of my life in my 30s. Like it's fun. Like we get to dress cute still and like, like have friends and like go to pools and have adventures. I'm like, it's not like this, like, all right, well now I like owe these taxes or whatever the fuck I thought, you know?
No, I was older in high school than I am now.
Yeah.
Because I was living in the future. I was like afraid of getting old, afraid of like whatever. And now I've like learned the skill of like enjoying the present moment. So I'm not afraid of like being in my 40s and my 50s.
No.
Because like, for one thing, my life has only gotten better. It's never gotten...
Right. We're just
you know
getting
what I mean?
Smarter. We're getting more experienced.
Right.
And it's like, I think too.
Oh, no, I'm going to have more money. Oh, shit. Am I going to have a big house?
Oh, are me and my friends going to be playing fucking bingo dressed in fur? Oh, no. Like, big deal. Like, that's my dream. Are you joking? Like, and I think.
Oh, no, I'm going to have a Scarface bathtub in my living room. What am I going to do?
Oh, no. I'm going to have like 4 servant men like feed me and like give me massages.
Massages.
So bad. Yeah. I'm like, one of us has to be like a female Hugh Hefner. I feel like we've all like seen that, like, you know, male prototype of like, he just has like a bunch of women and they're do your thing. But I'm like, I might be that person.
Yeah. I'll get some waterfalls in a robe. Yeah. I see no reason not to. It'd almost be rude not to at this point.
It'd be disrespectful for sure. I got a silk robe the other day and I was like, I'm feeling like I'm channeling Hugh Hefner and I like
get
it.
A silk robe.
You got to. Everything feels different.
I feel like that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a necessity.
You get like an attitude and confidence immediately.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. My roommates, I'm like, you don't talk to me right now. There's a silk robe on. Okay? There will be a studio apartment eventually. But yeah, so I was going to ask you too. So when you like, where do you think your comedy like comes from? Like for you, do you think it was like, oh, it was like trauma that like made me like a funny person? Or did you like grow up where like someone was always like showing you comedy and stuff and you got interested in it?
I mean, I think trauma because people say that that's a place that it can come from. And I definitely have enough of that.
For sure.
I definitely have enough like trauma and comedy to be like, well, okay, you know? Yeah. But there also are like pictures of me as a baby and stories about me as a baby, like trying to make people laugh, like making funny faces.
Yeah.
I mean, there are pictures of me like making weird, like, I was always, you know, doing stuff to make people laugh. I would, like, go and put on, like, different hats and just keep coming back in the room in, like, a different hat.
Like, I'm laughing. Goes with their fucking hats again, everybody.
I'm laughing because I'm picturing, like, what else was probably going on in the room, which is, like, my parents fighting. And me at, you know, 10 months old, just, like, changing my like... hats and crawling back into the room, wearing, like, sunglasses at the table. Yeah. Like, just, you know.
They're like, Lara, we're trying to get divorced here. Like, we don't have time for the tap dancing right now.
Like, please, I have, like, a marching band baton. Like, what are you doing?
There'll be an intermission. You guys can fight then. Like, seriously.
Yeah, I think I spent a lot of time trying to cheer people up and trying to cheer myself up.
Totally.
Yeah, I've done like a lot of trauma therapy and I started that in Chicago, and she told me that every time I laughed, she knew I was about to share something really painful.
Oh, wow.
She was like, your first line of defense is like you dissociate, but then when you come back like to the present moment, you laugh when you come out of it.
Totally.
And I didn't realize that because no one had ever called me on it. But I would laugh, and then I would tell her something, and she's like, that's a really fucked up story where you had a need as a child that you expressed, and it was completely just stampeded and ignored. And I was like, oh.
You're like, yeah.
I guess I just learned how to laugh at all that so I wouldn't kill myself.
Right. And that's the thing, like, too, that I always, like, tell people, like, especially all the men who date me, where I'm like, listen, I'm so sorry. I bit you, big deal. But
Oh my God, did you bite a guy? Have you heard my joke about biting a guy?
No.
Oh my God.
I've bit a guy before.
I bit a guy. Yeah, I bit a guy back in 08. Yeah, I bit him hard. He took a picture
like,
of it.
Back in 08. Yeah. You know, it's like, weren't we all doing that in 08?
Weren't we all biting guys? On. No, I have a whole bit about it.
Oh my God, I haven't heard. I mean, I know you're set pretty well, but I haven't heard that one. But yeah, I feel like people don't understand that it's like when you grow up in like chaos and trauma, you're like, that's literally all you know. And your brain is the most like impressionable at, it's like physically malleable like at those times that it's like it's soaking in all its like chemical wirings, like your neurons are being produced at that time, like literally like the chemicals that you're addicted to, like all of that is programmed at such a young age. So when you get older, you naturally, it's like how you handle arguments or how you handle conflict, or like I either will like lash out or I run, and I'll be like, oh, dye my hair, like I dumped you, call me Amanda, and people are like, you can't do that. Like, you gotta break up with someone to their face, you know.
I ghosted a guy I lived with once.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
like,
I just left our home and I didn't respond to his texts or his calls.
You're like, here's rent for the next month. I'm gone.
No, not even. And I mean, I did move back in, and then he was like, do you want to talk about it? And I was like, no. And then I left again. I mean, I covered the rent, you know, I didn't fuck him over. He ended up moving out because you know, we broke up, but that was how I
dealt with things. That's how your dad did. He would like come back, and like when you didn't want to deal with it, you're like, I'm fine. Okay, everything's fine. But people are like, dude, like I like mourned you. Like
he would apologize every night. He would be horrible and drag us through hell for hours every single night.
Yeah.
Every single night.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night, when it was time to tuck in my sister and me, he would deliver this like heartfelt apology speech. And I remember even as a kid just being like, stop. Just stop apologizing.
Yeah.
Do it differently or don't, but stop. I don't want to hear it. And that's still like a trigger for me. Like if someone over apologizes, I'm like, don't make me comfort you for your fuck up.
Yeah.
Like live with it.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
You can apologize once. And I mean, I've made the same mistake more than once.
For sure.
We're human. You can't torture someone every night for 4 hours.
Telling them that you're going to
and then tell them how sorry you are at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah. See, that's funny because I was the opposite, where I would always be like, okay, like my dad got like his 4th DUI and he hit a cop car like head on. And I was like, maybe calm down. And I remember like I was just like begging him. I was like, can you please stop drinking? Like, please, like stop. Like you're going to like kill yourself. And I remember he was like, okay. And like he would always be like, yeah, okay. Like I'm going to stop drinking. But I always believed him each time. I was like, okay, like I believe you. Like, okay, I believe you. And I feel like that's why, like with relationships, for me, the thing that's been hard, like when I've been in toxic relationships, I will always be like, okay, this person means it this time. This person means it this time. And then it's like 2 years later and it's like, hey, Monterey, like they're not changing.
Oh my gosh, I struggle so much with intimacy because like, and I'm attracting healthier, nicer people now.
Good.
Like that's one thing I will say is that like the last couple men I've dated have treated me really well.
Good.
I just started seeing someone.
Comic?
No.
Oh, okay, good.
And I don't know. It's so hard not to be suspicious of people just because I don't see anything.
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
And so the not seeing it is scary, much in the same way that like if you're in a dark room, you're afraid you're going to like trip over a coffee table.
Yeah.
But like maybe that room's empty. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to approach things with like a healthy understanding that you don't know the person very well.
For sure. So this is like new, like a month in or something.
Yeah, like closer to 2, but
okay, yeah,
still
so super
new.
Fresh. Yeah. And I think like just always having like, you know, a someone that you can just communicate everything with, because like that's always going to be the standout factor of like if you have success or not, is like if someone's like willing to listen and if someone's willing to like understand, because it's like, hey man, like I know I can't like recreate a museum of all my childhood trauma for you and have you walk through to like get the picture, but like I can tell you some stories and you can give me like a little bit of, you know, wiggle room, because it's like sometimes when I get hurt, I don't know how to communicate I'm hurt. Like I'll just try to hurt the person back, where I'm like, fuck you, you piece of shit, you know, which is not ladylike. But and then I've just like had to like learn to like, you know, really like work that anger down, because the anger is just like a hurt person, you know. And it's like, if you don't have understanding partners, like, you know, an ex, like he would just get so mad at me and then just say the meanest things back, and then it's like, okay, now the cops are being called, you know. And you're like, that's not good.
I think that this is like one of the scariest parts for me, is like the period before we've had a fight, because I really don't know, you know, like I've never seen this person angry. You know what I mean? So I have no idea what happens when that happens, or when he doesn't get his way. I mean, everything's been really easy so far, because we get along well. And because not a lot of time has passed.
Totally. But that's good. I think like whenever something, I always tell people, like whenever you feel like peace and you like keep like choosing it, it's like you're on the right trajectory. So it's like, you know, I always say it's kind of like a comic, where it's like you don't know a good comic until you watch them bomb, or you see like an audience not feel them. And it's like, because if that comic can box out of it, or do they just like, oh, I'm just going to stick to my script and just barrel through? And it's like, no, like, are they present? Are they aware? Are they adjusting? Are they maneuvering to like navigate out of this? And that's what you do in relationships, where it's like, okay, like something bad is happening, or something's like not clicking, or we're not understanding each other. But if we communicate and we stay present, like, hey, I just really feel like insecure and jealous right now. And sometimes as women, we don't want to admit that, because I don't know why. But it's like, it's so okay. Like the times where I just admit it, like, yeah, I'm just feeling insecure. I don't know. Like you said that you talked to her on the phone for an hour and it just made me insecure. So I just want to express that. Like, can you give me some reassurance? And they'll be like, oh yeah, totally. And I'm like,
love that.
But in my past, I would just be like, well, okay, well, I mean, she's not that funny. You've been on the phone with her for an hour. She's kind of fucking losing, you know? And I'm like, that doesn't help anybody, you know? So I think that, you know, you'll really see the moment happen. And then as long as you just say open and communicative, like during your anger and during your hurt, then you're like kind of in the not home field, in the, what is it? What am I trying to say? In the home stretch? No, I think I'm just, I
don't want to embarrass myself here, but end zone. I mean, that's football. That's not baseball.
Yeah. But I don't know what reference I was going for.
Home stretch is inappropriate. I think we can all agree that's not what it is.
We could definitely agree that we should cancel the podcast and I should start all over and apologize.
I'm going to take off. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for embarrassing yourself. Okay. So I am going to start to read your, tarot. So while I have some channeled messages for you too. So basically what that means is, so when I meditate, like I'll get into these like super, I don't know how to, but like altered conscious like states, like, and I can like receive messages like if I'm like focusing on a person. It sounds wild, but like basically all it is just.
What is the name of this?
What is the name of what?
What's the expression where you're like,
that I'm crazy?
What in the name of?
What in the tarnation?
No. It's not what is the name of this?
Wait.
Are we
okay? Yeah.
Is there a gas leak of some kind?
Are we alive?
In this room? Well, not only did we get off topic, we're not even having a conversation right now.
We're not.
I'm sorry. This started foaming and it startled me. I missed everything after the first bubbles surfaced on this can.
I was saying that I'm going to give you a message that I channeled for you. So basically when I channel, it's just when I meditate and I think about the person, and then I'm just receiving information.
Cool.
And it sounds crazy, but it basically just means I have a sharp antenna and I'm receiving, you know,
I totally get it.
Yeah. But while I do that, if you want, you can shuffle these two decks and then put your energy all over it. Sorry, I'm like trying to read you.
What are like the shuffling rules? Do I go like that, or I got to be real like
you can
gentle?
Do whatever you want. Yeah, like the tarot cards, I won't let anybody touch. But you know, I do have to be gentle. No, you don't have to be. You could do whatever.
Okay,
you want.
I'm just like I don't want like the devil to.
He's already mad at you.
Be in the cards or whatever. Wait, did I turn him upside down? Did I fuck up?
No, you're fine. You can do whatever you want.
Is there like a certain amount of times you want me to shuffle them?
You could literally like just shuffle them like while I like read this to you, or like when you feel like you shuffled them enough, and then just pull out 2 cards from each of those decks.
Okay,
So
these are all facing different ways.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that I got for you was also too, like when I channel, I always get messages of like helping people heal. Like I don't get future stuff. Like I think because I healed myself from so much trauma and all this stuff. So that's kind of like my psychic gift, is I can help give people like either physical things or like emotional things. So I'm basically like just giving you messages of like how to keep healing and progressing and yada yada, that sort of thing. Okay, so these were the messages I got for you. So one of them was to remember balance between self-love and discipline and hard work. They were saying that you've been working on yourself a lot, and obviously we've all seen like, you know, on social media, like you like kicked up your fitness and just fucking killed it. But they're saying that sometimes you're still like hard on yourself. So like they're like there's a balance between like self-love and having the discipline of being like, okay, like I can eat this, or like I can't eat this, or like, okay, let me make sure I work out however many times. But they're like, don't kill yourself to where you're like now like hurting yourself, to where you're like, you know, starting to say things like I can't have that, or like I can't do this, or like that's gonna like, don't let the fear of like what you've worked to, like everything that you've gotten now, don't let like your fear of like losing that like sabotage like how you speak to yourself. Like, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then the other message that I got, and if this is something like we can always cut out whatever, but so when I was like scanning like your body, like in my head, I saw like either trauma or like pain in like the stomach area. And when I saw the like trauma, or it seemed like trauma and not like pain. So like sometimes if I see like, it'll be like red or like black in that area, and that could either mean like, oh, you're having like digestive issues or like something. But then the way it looked like it was trauma. And I'm not sure if there was like, again, we can cut this out, but like I don't know if there was like an abortion or like a miscarriage or like anything like of that sort, but there was something in the stomach area. Does that make any sense to you at all?
It makes sense.
Okay. But I saw that. And so, and then I heard, or someone was like speaking to me, and they said it's someone who passed away. And the 3 clues that they gave me was like something to do with church, something to do with either a horse track or horseback riding. And do you know anybody with like, yeah, horse track, horseback riding? Who's that?
Oh, is that it? That's the end of the things, church and horseback riding?
They just said, well, and then they gave you a message, but I'll tell you the message they said after. But
yeah, I went to church horse camp when I was little, and it's where my sister met her husband.
Oh, okay. Now,
but I can't think of anyone who died from there recently.
Who paid for it? Did Grandpa pay for it?
No, I mean my parents did.
Your parents did. Okay. But it was definitely a man. Like I thought it was. I didn't know if it was a grandpa or it was a man, and like they were saying like, tell her about the horse track, or horseback riding in church. She'll know what that means, and just tell her that and they just said like over like 10 times, like tell her I'm so proud of her, and tell her like good job and give her a hug from me. But I'm like, I don't know who that was, but they said that they were associated with something to do with like the horseback riding and the church thing or whatever. And that's so funny because I also went to a horse church thing that my grandparents like forced me to go, and I didn't know it was a church thing, and I was like swearing like these motherfuckers, and they're like, this is a church thing.
So cute.
Yeah. Okay, so that was like kind of, they didn't say like, they didn't give me more clues. They were like she'll know if you say that, and I was like okay, and I just wrote it down. But later I can tap into it again, and I can privately message you. And then the other thing they said, now these were your like spirit guides. They're like, tell her to calm down. They're like, tell her to calm down and to just listen to one person. They said that like, they're like, she's hearing information from like a lot of people, and I don't know if it's like whether it's like advice like for work or whether it's like whatever, but they're like, tell her to calm down, and they're like, just listen to one person, like, and the person that she listens to, that like she's gonna be okay. And they said that have confidence that your future is taken care of. They're like, just tell her to have confidence in that. And they're like, and then she doesn't have to like worry about anything else. Like they said that like you keep getting stuck in and being like, well, if I go like this, if I go here, but then like, what if this is this happen? But if I go pick this thing, then is that gonna have you're constantly like picking apart and like, you know, thinking of like the whole entire trajectory of like every single like choice you make and like how like it'll like affect you. And they're like, no, like she's fine. Like she's fine. She's going to be successful. She's going to have love. She's going to have happiness. She's going to have all the things. But like she's got to just like get out of her like own like thoughts of like listening to all these people and like because they're saying like you're getting like really like overwhelmed. I was like, does any of that resonate?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's really interesting because right before I came here, I have been struggling with, I needed to set a boundary with my mom and my sister. And I asked 3 different women from 3 different like parts of my life.
Yeah.
Like, should I send this text? Should I send this text? Should I send this text? And fortunately, and I mean, I like my higher power speaks through the people in my life all the time.
For sure.
And so I was like, you know, I'm going to just listen to what they all have to say and then do whatever, you know.
Right.
They all were like, yes, say that.
Oh, good.
And so I set a boundary with them that I've been struggling to. Basically, I asked for space that I've really needed.
Right.
And have been struggling to ask for because I'm afraid of how they'll react.
Yeah.
And I had to like let go of that. But it's interesting because I was very conscious of like asking 3, you know, answer shopping, doing exactly that.
Totally.
And there is one person who like has what I want, who I trust the most right now. Yeah. And it's different people at different times. And it doesn't mean that anyone's any better or any worse, but for whatever reason, this person's like really speaking to my heart right now, you know? And like the suggestions that she's giving me and the perspective that she's giving me is like so helpful. Oh, so that kind of just gave me permission to like just work through shit with her. Yeah. And I don't have to like
ask
15 this person's opinion and this person's opinion.
Totally. Yeah. I was like, I will, because I was like, now I'm curious because I'm like, I'm annoyed that they're like, she'll know who I am when you say that. Yeah, I'm annoyed
by that too. I mean, the only person I could think of it being would be my dad. But I feel irritated that he would talk to you. I feel like that's really crossing a boundary, which is so typical of him. Right. So I'm annoyed if he contacted you.
Yeah.
But
in his defense, I'll ask, I'll be like, okay, like her spirit guides, anyone who's crossed over, like give me information that like helps like either inspire, heal, or guide her. And so it's like so I was like, then it's my fault, you know, if I.
Yeah, he took me horseback riding when I was a kid. We went to like this ranch.
Yeah.
And wow, yeah.
Then for sure.
I was like just thinking about that.
Yeah, I knew it was a man.
This picture of me on a horse looking so pissed off. And I was like 7, and it's the funniest picture to me that I have like not shown to anybody because there's never been a brattier looking picture taken of a child. Like I'm a little white girl. I'm on a horse and I'm like, I like looked so pissed. And I'm like, no one can ever see this.
Yeah.
And so I feel called out.
Yeah. So that's very interesting. And then the trauma and the pain in the stomach. So like whether, I don't know if it's like maybe that's where you hold your trauma, or if it's like saying something like, hey, like make sure you take care of your gut health, like make sure you're taking care of like digestive issues, like doing like because like when I saw it, like I immediately thought like, because I just saw like normally when I see like that someone needs an area to like, I know I sound crazy, people are like,
no, that's not it.
Oh, okay.
I'm laughing because I just went camping with the guy I just started dating and his friends, and I like didn't poop for like 2 days.
I was like, so maybe you just need to poop.
And I feel a little called out. But I've never had a miscarriage or an abortion.
Okay. Well, then if it's that, sometimes like too, like when I like tap in or whatever, like they're just giving me things so you know that you can trust me. So it's like,
okay.
you know what I mean? So and it's funny because I literally wrote right here, I was like, because when I was they're like, tell her that she can trust you. And I wrote in parentheses, I was like, you can trust me. I just forgot to say that. But they told me to say that to you because they're like, let her know like that she can trust you. And so maybe they're just giving me these like different things of like, just so she knows that like these are like real messages for her. So she's not like, that's fucking wackadoo. But yeah, like, I mean, I think like the biggest takeaway from this too is just like knowing where it's like the balance of like self-love and disciplining yourself. Cause like that line, like when I was like scanning you, I could see like the cloud of like stress like here. And I was like, okay, like that means like you're overthinking and you're, you know, if any blocks that you're having are like blocks that like you're creating. And so they're like, just tell her like, I mean, they literally wrote the road. They're like confidence. Like tell her to have the confidence that.
Oh my God. I was just meditating on confidence yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I've been, asking my higher power every day to like relieve me of character defects which are preventing me from being of service. And so the way that I do that is like by asking for the opposite.
Yeah.
So like being fearful, jealous, insecure, the opposite is like being confident and secure. And so I specifically meditated on confidence yesterday. That's wild.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, they're listening too. So they're like, give her and like they were just saying too, like not just like gaining confidence, but they're like saying like, no, have confidence because we're telling you like your life is good. Like, and it's gonna continue to be good. So like you have like nothing to fear like in the future. You know what I mean? Like, of course we'll all like go through like moments, but they're like her struggle years are done. You know what I mean?
God,
like
that's just what I've been really hoping.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I just be done with
you're
the
done.
bad part?
Yeah.
Like maybe I'm done with the bad part forever.
yeah. No, you're done with the bad part. Like,
Good.
and that's, you know, doesn't mean that like we'll never like, oh, you might get fired or some, you know what I mean? There'll be like little thing, but it's like the trauma and the pain and the suffering and the survivor mode, like all that is like done in your life. You know what I mean? And now you're just like tuning up and like, that's really it, you know? So that was our channeled messages. That means like those were your spirit guides or whoever who were like, tell her like this. And then now, and if you want to pick out 2 cards from that deck and 2 cards from that deck, and then you can just.
And I can't like look at them, obviously, right?
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. Don't fucking cheat, Lara.
2 cards from that deck.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
I did it.
Good job.
You want these?
You can just leave them. They're fine. Yeah. Ooh, okay. Not these 2, but these
Edit
ones.
that out.
Yeah. I was like, nobody needs to know.
Fix that in post.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. And then let's see what we have here. Sorry, I'm like OCD. I want to. Oh, and like
Thank you. Thank God.
Yeah. While I'm doing this part, like, do you have anything, like, do you have a podcast or are you working on anything or what's like going on, like with you, like with work wise?
I'm like writing a bunch of stuff and then I have shows coming up, obviously.
Hell yeah. And what are the things that you're writing? Like, do you want to write television?
Yeah, I have a show in development.
Oh my God. Hell yeah.
And I started writing a movie and am like starting writing a show with a friend.
Amazing. Hell yeah. Good for you. Well, you have a very successful career-based cards that we're pulling. So that's good. Okay, so right now, sorry, I have to like back up because it's like right thing. Okay, one thing that they're saying like off the top, the cards, when I say they, I'm like, and the four spirits standing behind you. Okay. So one thing that they're saying is like, don't forget to like take time to rest. Like take time to.
Oh my God. Can I tell you what
Yeah.
that? So I decided I can start running, and I ran the last 3 days.
Hell yeah.
And then I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, I really recommend doing like couch to 5K. Like, don't just start running.
Right.
And I looked it up, and I'm like, I don't want people to see me like run for 1 minute and walk for 1 minute. I was like, I feel like I'll look like a wimp. And he's like, I really recommend it. And then I like looked closer at it, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I was like, so should I start on day 4 or day 1? And he was like, I would start on day 1. Well, that's a Monday and today's a Wednesday. So I was like, I think I might start on the Thursday, which would be
day 4
to run tomorrow, which would be 4 days in a row. But the way this like couch to 5K thing is set up, this is so boring. I'm sorry.
No. I'm interested.
Like,
my friend runs marathons. So
it's like a day of rest and then a day of running and then like 2 days of rest and then a day, there's like a lot of rest.
Yeah.
And so I have been like bouncing back and forth in my head between like, am I going to rest tomorrow or am I going to run tomorrow? Am I going to treat it as the 4th day or the first day? I don't want to rest.
Right. But you have to. And that's like going back to like the other message too of like the first one I said, it was like having the balance between self-love and discipline, because you think that you're doing the right thing because you're like, no, like I can just run. I can run. This is healthy. This is good for me. But at the same time, it's like you like, why, like what's inside of you that's making you do, like, is it like from a healthy place of like, oh, I just am enjoying this, or is this a place of like necessity where like I don't want to like get unfit, or I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like you have to make sure that like the intentions of what you're doing is like for your highest good always, and not for like, appearance or
to just have the hottest body.
Yeah, for sure. And so make sure you rest. And that's, and not just with running too, but like with career stuff too. So like when you're in a lull, like say you don't have like shows for a week, you don't have to be like, oh fuck, like this person's getting me
so
shows.
Much anxiety.
Yeah,
even thinking about not having shows for a week.
But you have to like let yourself be like, it's okay. Like maybe this is the time where I like go out and have some experiences and I gain more, perception on like how the world works, or I get in contact with friends and I feel creative, I feel inspired. Like let yourself have those moments, because it's like we've seen those comics who you can just tell they're just like workhorses, and it's like, are you still talking about airplanes? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, and you don't want to be that. So it's like, let yourself, like those lulls are like necessary, you know what I mean? And it's just part of, there's winter, you know what I mean? Like summer, spring, there's winter for a reason, like it all serves its purpose. So definitely like rest, because your cards are telling you that like you're, like when you are fully like rested and like in a state where you can actually like, epiphanies or ideas, like that's when they're going to come to you. So like if you're trying to like write a show, or you're trying to get this movie done, or you're trying to think about like the trajectory of your career, you're not gonna have the best mindset like when you're go. Like they're trying to tell you, they're like, she needs to like be at a thing where she can just chill, stop, think, process, objectively think of everything, and then she can make decisions. So it's like, let yourself like have those moments, because then they're connected to this. I mean, you have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you have like 3 like very positive like career cards. And so, as long as like you like let yourself be in like those moments, like you're gonna just keep, I mean, you pulled success, which is like, you have the opportunity of like literally having all of this like work out for you in like whatever way, and they're just saying, it's like, hey girl, like it's just you at this point, like that's it. Like there's no outside force holding you back. There's nobody like in the industry that were like, we don't like Lara. Like, you know what I mean? There's no agent that's like, we're just not going to pitch it. Like there's, you know what I mean? There's like, there's no fuck shit going on. You know what I mean? There's nobody who's just like, let's just fuck her out of this contract. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to worry about any of that. Like you have no fuck shit. You have no like, there's no, and when I tapped into, because I'll always be like, are there like is there like a bad person around them? Is there like, and you don't have any of that. So you're like,
hell yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying that there's not bad, but nobody close
I know
in
what
your,
you're saying.
yeah.
No saboteurs.
Exactly. You're not, and you're not like best friends with someone where I'm like, girl, like that's a friend of me, like get away from her.
Yeah.
And then also you have like the growing card, and usually like the growing card is like, that means like there's some, it's funny because I did Allie Mack yesterday and she got that card too.
I was just thinking about calling Allie Mack on the way here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, how fun. See, it's all synchronistic.
And I never talked to her. I literally haven't called her since March. And I was on the way here. I was like, I have to call her.
Oh, how funny. Well,
so funny.
I did her I did her podcast, but I read her cards for her. And she pulled this card too, but that's interesting. But same thing where it's like usually when you get growing, that means like one, that you're doing like a lot of work on yourself, but two, it also can mean like change. Like there's like some change is like going to come like in the, like very like near future, that it's like, and whatever the change is, like say you get an opportunity and they're like, you have to move to New York City or something, but it's like, don't think that the thing that's coming, that's like going to be a change, like don't see it as a negative, you know what I mean? Like say like for example, like say you tried to like sell this show and then it doesn't get picked up by the network you want, and you're like, fuck, like how is it not this show? And they're like, no, you have to see that as the blessing. The thing that's like you want, it doesn't work out, that's actually the blessing, because it's going to go on FX instead of Comedy Central. I'm just making this up. And they're like, well, FX is the show that's going to completely get your mind, completely get your vision, and let you run with it. So it's like, don't, when you hear bad news, have the belief and like just know that it's not bad news. It's like actually like serving like your higher like purpose. So it's like sometimes we hear like you get dumped or something and you're like, well, fuck, like I love this guy. And you're like, no, you have no idea who your soulmate is. And this person's so much better. And it's like, thank God you got dumped by that person. So they're just like challenging you to be like, hey, when this happens, there is no negative. It's always for your higher good. And then the other card you pulled is environmental awareness. And sometimes that just means like if we're not recycling and we're like not like taking like, the time to be like, oh, I don't need to take a 45-minute shower, or like, oh, like I could, do something that like maybe requires like giving back or like whatever. But it's like basically they're saying you're an asshole and you use too much water and you don't recycle, Lara.
Are you serious? I fucking took 3 baths yesterday, which I never do.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so
I can't believe I'm being called on
Lara.
that. I cannot believe I'm being specifically called out on the water that I wasted.
They know. They're like, dude, she's fucking greedy out here. And I'm like, girl, they know you. But yeah, that was your, how do you feel? Do you feel like, all right, like I'm ready, like I can go kick ass, I have all the messages that I need now?
Yeah, I felt pretty confident before that, but that was crazy how much like specific stuff. Cause
hell
like,
yeah.
The guy that I just started, the guy I'm dating just recently brought up like, what if you like get this job and you have to move to New York? And I'm just like, I don't think that's gonna happen. If it does, like, we'll see. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have the answer for that. I don't know.
For sure. Yeah. But just know as long, and like that's kind of like I always tell people, I'm like, that's the game of life. And like it, how mathematicians, they're the people who find out these laws of the universe, and it's like that's how we have equations, and we know how to just make shit work based off of equations or whatever. But it's like there are sacred laws too of the universe that it's like, and I tell people, I'm like, if you apply it, like it genuinely, like you'll see the benefits for yourself. So it's like anytime one bad thing happens to you, like it is a literal game and challenge for you to be like, okay, let me sift through and find the blessing in it. And when you do it, it's like, however the science and the math works, it's like I've just seen it work for myself so many times where I'm like, I know I'm going to get like some sort of like reward in like 3 days. And I'm like, even if people don't believe in this shit, I'm like, just fucking try it.
I actually do already feel that way.
Yeah.
Not always with career stuff. That's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But with breakups now, like if stuff ends with a guy, I'm like, oh, how exciting that the right guy for me is even better
Totally.
than this guy. Oh, you have a better one?
Yeah.
Oh, you
all right,
can do better? Great.
Yeah.
Let's do that then.
Absolutely. And it's the same stuff with career. And it's like hard. And I always tell people, I'm like, we're all coded because we know like the universe is all numbers, right? So it's like you're coded with an algorithm and your number might be 7428, right? So you're going to receive love on the code 7428. You're going to receive blessings on 7428. You're going to receive careers. So it's like, this, say another girl or another comic, their blessing is JFL or their blessing is SNL or their, but your blessing might be, oh, I have a 3-book deal, and I get $7 million per book, or your blessing is that you have your own show and you get an Emmy. So it's like the coding is not the same for every single person because it's like, how boring would life be if we all had the same exact blessings? It's like, no, we're coded, but like we all get ours. But all we have to do is just be at our highest form because your highest form is the state that you attract the highest things that are on that same level. So it's like love is not going to be on the level of like, I fucking hate everybody. Like how are you going to get love if you're on that level? So you have to be at your highest level to attract the physical things at their highest level. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you'll get all yours.
Yeah.
You just stay. You just keep doing what you're doing and just, like have confidence and you're going to be on your way.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Do you want to plug your, do you want to plug your socials?
Yeah. I'm at Lara Beitz on everything. LARABEITZ. And there's a link tree in my Instagram bio that has all my like upcoming tour date, ticket links. Sorry, I'm so tired. I don't know why.
Well, you just also heard like the best news. So you're like,
yeah, go to my Instagram, follow me.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing the podcast. Yeah. And you guys, I will be back next week. If you're enjoying, please like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends.